evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the fourth race of the season for Season 3 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. It's the first road course stop of the season as we prepare for the LMC Gear Road America 35. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Bronson Stafford. And Bronson, a road course here today, 14 corners, a little over 4 miles in length, and 35 laps await these drivers. But there's some pretty difficult corners here at this road course.
Yeah, Road America is an interesting track. Like you were saying, though, definitely turn one is a tricky corner, and you got to go all the way to the other end of the racetrack. Canada corner is always tricky. What else? We got turn three, probably one of the heaviest braking zones and a prime passing opportunity just before going up the hill to turn four, where that's also a tricky corner. Just, you kind of got the blind braking zone. You have the long carousel going just before the backstretch with the kink. There's some good corners at this track and a lot of passing opportunities.
You've also got that really tough left-hander, turn 5, coming off that Moraine sweep. Probably one of the straightaways, the longer straightaways here, where they carry the most speed and have to get down to the slowest braking zone to be able to make it through that corner. So, there's a couple of places, especially there, that, obviously road courses most oftentimes with the IndyCar series, we end up seeing them go caution-free because the field gets spread out. But that could be one of our big trouble spots today for a possible full-course yellow.
Yeah, for sure. I think iRacing rules, if there's like 5 cars or something stopped, they'll actually throw a full course yellow for road courses now. I was kind of listening to driver. It didn't sound like the admins were going to throw yellows on. They were just going to let iRacing take control. So the odds of seeing a yellow realistically is pretty slim tonight. But it's not zero. There is a chance, but it'll be kind of tough to do it unless they absolutely junk some cars in one corner together.
We've had 3 drivers go to victory lane in the first 3 races this season. Matt Wagner winning the season opener at Auto Club, Charles Teed winning at Iowa, and then, of course, last week at Atlanta, we saw Pablo Diaz-Francis go to victory lane. The only constant that there's been is the pole sitter has been Robert Maleska III for the first 4 races, and he was able to do it at 3 speedways, does it here at the road courses, so it seems like wherever we go, that 91 machine is fast.
Yeah, 4 straight poles to open the season. Definitely has some speed. And, if there's any track that you'd want to get a pole, it's definitely a road course. It's a little bit harder to get around the pole sitter here than the speedway track. So if you can keep his car at least in the top 3 after the first lap or so, I think he'll be looking pretty good. His practice speeds were quick, but so was the 317 of Alex Vandersand. He had some really quick lap times right up there with the 91 all practice long.
Taking a look here at our starting grid presented by Lionheart Racing Series. Lionheart Racing Series is working closely with Dark Horse Racing, providing subs for the 2021 season. Find out more at lionheartracingseries.com. Looks like we're going to have, I believe, 24 drivers that are going to take the green flag here today. And what are you thinking here, Bronson? Are we looking at the possibility of pit road being the deciding factor in this one, or do you think the racetrack itself may be the deciding factor into who's going to be able to survive these 35 laps?
I think it's definitely a little bit of both. Pit road strategy can always be smart. These cars get faster as you burn off fuel, but you also start losing tires, so you can always play a fine line between, getting the car lower on fuel, but having, more worn tires, or getting on a little bit sooner so you can run lower towards the end of the race, whatnot. But the track itself, too, it's 97 degrees. It's a little hot. It's a little slick. It had a lot of practice usage, and it's all carried over. So there's a lot of rubber out there, but it's also been baking in the sun a little bit.
A lot of drivers last week that had decent outings at Atlanta gained multiple spots in the standings. Covey Moore, who finished inside of the top 10, he ended up jumping up 12 spots to 19th. And last week's winner, Pablo Francis, he jumped up 18 spots from 29th up to 11th. He's only 32 points out of the points lead. So, early on in this season, still a lot of opportunity for drivers to be able to work their way up towards the top of the standings. Matt Wagner, our season opening winner, still sits at the top of the board, 4 points over Oscar Gonzalez and 8 points over Victor Santos. But as mentioned, Bronson, 3 speedway races coming into this one. Now this might be the area where drivers that may not do so well at the ovals, that are road course ringers, this is maybe the first race they had circled on the calendar as their opportunity to be able to find victory lane.
Yeah, road courses always give a really interesting dynamic to any series, but especially one like Indy cars, where the cars, it's a completely different spec car. At least with the NASCARs, you kind of, you're still running the same big V8, same downforce levels, everything like that you run. The Indy cars get a whole new aero package for a road course, so it's completely different how it drafts, how it brakes, everything from what they've been used to for the last 3 weeks. So it's definitely going to be a challenge for some of these guys. But yeah, I mean, you definitely see some different names.
And of course, as well, with it being a road course, these drivers for the first time this season will be able to utilize push to pass. They have 10 push to passes to use during the course of this 35 laps. Going to be just a tick over 140 miles in length. As through the final corner they come, heading up the uphill front straightaway. Pace car is going to turn them loose. And Robert Maleska III about to get us underway here at Road America. Green flag in the air. We'll have to see how all these drivers approach turn one. Sometimes those first couple of corners on starts and restarts can be chaotic. Looks like the front 6, 7 get rather organized. Now we got a battle back there around 5th place.
Yeah, I'm trying to watch the back part of the field, see if they all get through turn one. And it does look like it. All 26 cars got through turn one with no incident. So we're off to a clean start. That's already a huge accomplishment for 26 drivers at Road America.
Greg Forsyth just moved up to the 4th position. Behind them, you've got a side-by-side battle with George Anzaldo and last week's winner, Pablo Francis in the 22. Down here into that hard left-hand turn 5. Looks like at least at the front they're all going to get through it safely. We'll see about towards the back.
We got a wreck at the back. 24th, 5th, and 6th. Well, 24th and 5th got into it. I think the 12 of Josh Garner and the 7 of Gary Corley had an issue. I think the 12 just got in a little too hot, locked up the brakes. Yep, locked it up, spun around, and the 7 just had nowhere to go.
So Josh Garner definitely with some early damage there around the right front wing. And we talk about the aerodynamics, especially at the speedways. Early damage sustained here at a road course. How badly does it affect the race car for the rest of the run?
It's depending how bad it is. I think for Josh Garner, at least he does still have the front wing. It's a little bent up all on the left front side, but he does still have it. Gary Corley, however, does not have any part of that front end of that car. So he's just going to be losing a lot of lap time and pretty much needs to get that replaced.
Oh, no. Sorry to cut you off, but we were following back here to the 22 of last week's winner, Pablo Francis, because he had gone off course, got back on track, and now around there in Canada Corner. Whole front end of that car is gone, and I think we had another issue up ahead there. Gail Brooks in the 71 having an issue through the carousel.
Oh, yeah, man, there's all the for lap 1 incidents. I just went back and watched what happened to the 22 of Pablo Diaz-Francis, and it looks like a lot of netcode. He locked up a little bit trying to avoid the driver ahead of him. The 86 came in hot. They didn't actually touch, but netcode spun the 22 around into the wall, so that's really unfortunate for last week's winner.
A lot of drivers wadded up just outside of the top 10. A.J. Hobson in the 63, Benjamin Combs in the 77. Up ahead of them, Jim Herrick making a move to the inside of George Anzaldo, and he's going to complete that pass. Nice move coming down to that heavy braking zone and forced Anzaldo to have to back off and not try and cross him over.
Yeah, that's one of the prime overtaking spots that this racetrack has. One of really 3, maybe 4 different overtaking spots that are probably the easiest place to get it done, and just a textbook pass got by him, not able to get the crossover, and away he goes.
And I'm looking at some of these drivers that are up here towards the top of the leaderboard, and that driver that we just saw make the pass, Jim Herrick, he comes into this race 17th in the point stands, only 1 top 10 in the first 3 races. So, this could be a guy that we're looking at that possibly does a lot better on the lefts and rights of a road course than at just the left-hand turns of the oval. Says, boy, they're getting dicey right here back in this group. This is coming down, I believe, Kettle Bottoms into Canada Corner, and double wide. They're actually going to make that work in the battle for 10th place.
Yeah, the 6 car there actually has damage to his left front wing as well. So the fact that he's holding on to 10th place with that damage is pretty impressive, but probably why these guys are getting all over him into the braking zone. He just doesn't have as much stopping power as the other cars around him.
The close battle going on right now. Most of the drivers up inside of the top 10 have spaced them out by anywhere from a second to a second and a half. As now Benjamin Combs going to make a couple of passes, getting around George Enzaldo and AJ Hobson. Hobson now looks to the inside of that six machine. And going back to your point, that damage, it looked like it really affected him on that front straightaway, as the 77 and the 63 were able to get better straightaway speed to make the pass over in turn one.
Yeah, I think he's just struggling that little bit more. You can see the top end just isn't quite there. He's holding on pretty good, you know, maybe just try and ride it out until you can maybe pit and get a good pit stop and make it on fuel and, you know, get it repaired at that point instead of coming in early and having to still pit it one more time. Because he's not too much slower, just a little bit on the straights, which is going to be a little annoying to defend from. But, I mean, he's going back after the 63 here, so it can't be that bad.
Update on drivers that had issues back on lap one as we continue to watch this battle for the 11th
Oh, the 63's around. Sorry, right in front of the field.
Yes, indeed, and I believe that was Brandon Pasalaquah that had to get around, and Victor Santos, I think, might have been the yellow car that got into him with the front end. That's going to drop Hobson all the way back to 22nd position, and he's going to have some damage now. Not sure about the 21 of Brandon Pasalaquah. I don't know if he's actually going to have damage or not. I think he did make contact with the right front. I don't see any visible damage there, but yeah. I'm not certain.
Look, there was a lot of net code for him. The wing damaged and then undamaged itself. He got hit in the back, but the back of the car looks all right. The 24 was in that. His wings a little bent up all over the front. It's not too bad, actually. He got away with that one, the 24 of Victor Santos. And then the 36, who ran into the back of the 21, has some front-end damage on the wing. But realistically, they're pretty lucky to get away with that one. No severe damage to any of those cars, and they're still able to continue.
Battle back here for 18th. Jason Butler trying to get the 18th spot away from Kristen Nelson, as AJ Hobson in the 63. He is now coming down pit road after his spin on that last lap. Other drivers that had issues back on lap one. Looks like Gail Brooks came down pit road, as did Pablo Francis. They've already taken on their fast repair, so they don't have any other fast repair to lean on for the remainder of this race. Gary Corley was also down pit road. He, I believe, just came down and took on maybe fuel only, maybe just getting a little damage repaired. He's still in the lead lap. Josh Garner, however, in the 12, who we saw have an issue as soon as, I believe it was turn 5. He is one lap down right now to the leaders, hoping that a caution comes out, because I believe he would get the lucky dog if we were to get a full course yellow. But again, at a road course, very unlikely that we're going to see a full course yellow happen.
Yeah, it's already starting to spread out. I don't think we'll see one at this point. Real quick though, this last lap, the 99 of Matt Wagner ran off the track through the sand just before the carousel. No damage done. He did lose the position to Craig Forsyth. So he did lose one spot, but he's still right behind him. And what happened to the 317? Did he just come out of pit road? He went from 2nd to 6th now.
Yeah, he's still running, but yeah, he lost some spots. He did not come down pit road, but apparently he's either...
Oh, he had issues that lap too.
Oh, did he? Okay, so problems for him. Also saw the 54 of AJ Musselman. He had an issue in one of the final corners.
Yep, that blind braking zone up the hill. He just locked the rear tires and spun it around. Had to wait for a clear spot in the track and lost a couple positions there for the 317 of Alex Van der Sant. But the car has no damage. He is back going. He was the only one really keeping up with Robert Malxa. Sorry about names. I'm clearly new here, but he was the only one really keeping up with him. So for now, Robert's got a clean track all around him.
Got about 5.5 seconds back to Craig Forsyth, who's been able to work his way from what I believe was a 7th place starting spot, now up to 2nd place. And then Forsyth has about 0.8 of a second back to 3rd place Matt Wagner, as this battle for 5th place could be brewing. Desant trying to get back up into the top 5. Eric Schaus just ahead of him in that neon pink, blue, and green machine. And looks like they're actually going to take this down into Canada corner. And Schaus says, you want the spot, go ahead and take it. Kind of moved out of the way of the 317 car.
Yeah, I think he realized Alex was much quicker than him. No reason to race and burn out both of your guys' tires for no gain, really, when he's probably going to get that move done on you anyway. Just let him go. And Alex is starting his climb back through the field. Yeah, luckily he didn't really do too much damage or harm with the spin. So yeah, as long as his tires are good, he should be okay, and hopefully trying to get back up to at least second where he was running.
Victor Santos, a little bit of damage he had has not affected him. He just worked his way around George Zaldo, moving himself up to 12th. Jim Brooks and Nicholas Winook back there as well. And looks like the 6 car is actually going to come to pit road this time. I would assume this is an unscheduled stop for him with the damage that he sustained. He just figures it's too much. He's got to come down, get that damage fixed, and get back out there at full speed. But the thing that I'm thinking here, too, there's been a couple of times that FRN has called races at Road America, and it seems like if you're going to have an issue, have it early on and then use the rest of the race to try and combat it. Because if you have issues in the second half of this race, more than likely you're not going to be able to improve your spot with the limited time you have left.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to have the issues in the first 5-10 laps of any race, really. Just you have so much more time to try and make it up and go for it, The 6 car did actually take tires, fuel, and his fast repair here. I have no idea what fuel's looking like on these cars, so if he can make it from here, then he'll be sitting pretty good. He can just go kind of... He's not completely by himself. He does have a driver behind him, which is actually Pablo in the 22, who also had early issues. So they can just kind of run around, do some hot laps, and hopefully when everyone else pits, they can cycle through to wherever they do, and hopefully be able to hold on to the spots if they're good on fuel.
An issue here with Todd Schneider in the 86 as he's trying to come back onto the track. I think that was over in turn 6, the uphill turn 6, and looks like nobody else got into him. He was able to get the thing refired, and that's going to be a trouble spot as well. I remember a previous IndyCar race that we did here. That seemed to be where cars were at their lightest, coming off that uphill left-hander.
The corner that he spun is actually the downhill one, Seth, just before the carousel, but it also has the same issue there with you're braking slightly downhill to the left, and the car just seems to unload really weird. The uphill left is the blind braking, I believe, for corner 4.
So with that being said, with the fuel tank starting to empty and the back end of the car getting lighter, does that problem just get worse as the run goes on?
Yeah, it potentially can. You'll tend to lock up the rear tires a bit more, or when the cars get lower on fuel and you're turning against the way that it's tilting for the racetrack, the car just unloads on that side, and you pick up the power, and it just spins around on you with no warning, and that's kind of exactly what happened to him.
Battle for second continues to close up here between Craig Forsyth and Matt Wagner. Wagner had it cut down by about to nearly 2/10. Lost a little bit of ground there in the first half of the course, and now starting to gain it back here with the draft through Kettle Bottoms. A couple of drivers up here that might be in trouble in terms of their push to passes. Charles Teed in the 5 machine. He's running in 7th, but we're only 7 laps in, and he has used up 5 of his push to passes already.
That's quite a bit to run pretty early on. Clearly, he's just on the defensive from Nick DeGroot, but I mean, using that much, if there is a late race yellow or anything like that to bunch the field back up, he will definitely be in trouble.
Wagner's going to complete the pass, so he will go to second place, moving Forsyth back to third. And yeah, Nick DeGroot, of course, the defending champion. First time we mentioned him today. He's currently back in the 8th position, currently has all of his 10 push to passes and is slowly reeling in Charles Teed for 7th place. Kind of surprising, though, not to see him up here towards the front. Didn't exactly have a top-of-the-board qualifying effort as well. So DeGroot, who was very strong at the place earlier on this season, even though he found some bad luck, currently comes into this race 14th in the point standing. So, it's obviously a longer season than they had last year. Last year, I think they had 12 races. This year, they've got 18. So is it go time for this one machine? Does he have to start making forward progress in the standings now, or does he have a little bit of time based on the fact that it's based on however many points you accumulate in those 18 races? There's no playoff system.
I would definitely probably use the 4th race as a good judge, but really, in an 18 race season, if you're not going by the end of race 6, I'd say you're maybe in trouble for a championship bid, unless the other guys have some bad luck. But 4th race, it's the first race on road courses. You're just going to trying to establish where you're at in the running order, really. And he has good pace. He's consistent. I mean, he's last season's champion. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to run, at least 12 races and play for the points. So I wouldn't be too worried yet, but maybe in a couple more weeks, if it doesn't show improvement, then maybe I'd be a little concerned.
Fourth place under contest after the issue that Alexander Van de Sant had. He's gotten around Eric Schaus. He now completes the pass on Covey Moore. So in the last 3 laps, he has picked up 2 positions. And right now, in terms of lap times, too, he is currently the 3rd fastest car on the racetrack. That last time by just maybe about 4/10 slower than Robert Maleska III.
Yeah, Alex is really quick right now. He just needs to get those track positions back. Unfortunately, he's not the quickest car on track, so he's not catching the race leader, but he is catching pretty much everyone else on the track, so he should be able to get back up there. It's a long enough race. He's only about 5 seconds behind second place, but I would definitely say the 13-second gap to the leader is a bit much to overcome.
Saw it right there off the final corner. Eric Peterson running into issues. He was in 13th at the time, and now coming down pit road is the 36 machine. So this could possibly be a regularly scheduled stop for the 36. However, I'm wondering, it looked like that car was bouncing up and down quite violently in the sand trap. Possible suspension problems there?
Possibly with the bouncing, but he should be able to take the fast repair here anyway, just in case if there was any damage or whatnot, and just go on to the end. But these cars are built pretty good. You can typically run through the sand trap and it'll bounce around, but it usually won't damage the car.
Looks like he did indeed take on that fast repair, and he is down and away. Robert Maleska III, even though he has started on the pole in the first 3 races and also continues that streak here today, he is yet to go to victory lane this year. But that's not to say that he hasn't had good runs at the speedways. He's 5th in points, 16 points back, and has had 2 top 5 finishes in those 3 races. He just hasn't been able to close the deal in finding victory lane, but we know at the road courses that a lot of times it's all about starting track position, and starting out in front, your chances of winning at a road course are actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of like what I was saying just before the green flag dropped, is if there's any place that he wanted to continue the pole streak, it'd definitely be at a track like Road America. Just being the leader, you get so much control, you can get away, you can get where you want to run, where you want to brake, where you want to turn in, and everything all on your own. The ovals are so much draft that it's honestly kind of a detriment to start on the front row, because by the time you get off of turn 2, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and maybe even like 6th on back are kind of all over you. At a road course, if you get through turn 1 and 2 with no one with you, you're kind of gone for the rest of the race.
These drivers right now not really showing much slowing down. As a matter of fact, our top 2, Robert Maleska III and Craig Forsyth, 10 laps in, just ran their fastest laps of the race. So with that being said, I'm kind of wondering here, we don't, as you said, we don't really know what the fuel window is for these drivers, but do you maybe think about splitting this race in half, coming down pit road, maybe lap 17 or 18, or do you try running that thing out of fuel and save those tires for a final spurt to the end?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I noticed it in practice. These guys are running the quickest laps after about 7 laps on their tires. And usually it's just a combination of having low fuel, but typically the tires will wear away as well. So it'll really be interesting maybe over the next 5 laps to see where the lap times are. And I think really it'd make your decision from there. But with the way the tires are looking with fall off, you could definitely do the halfway strategy and work out really, really well.
Charles Teed in the 5 coming to pit road. I believe this is a regularly scheduled stop, so this could be the indication of when drivers could be making their pit stop here today. Teed giving up the 7th position to come down pit road in that number 5 machine, our winner from Iowa Speedway. Like 77, Benjamin Combs is in this lap as well.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if this might be the beginning of the fuel window where you can pit from here and make it to the end. 25 laps on fuel sounds doable. This sounds like what these cars should be able to do. Real quick, up front, if you If you take a look, it looks like the 317 of Alex has caught up to second and third position, as they are really all on the same straightaway, if not same corner.
Yeah, that last lap, he was 2 seconds faster than Matt Wagner and about 0.6 of a second faster than Craig Forsyth. So he is closing in on those two very quickly.
Our
And
leader hits pit road.
so Robert Malesko III coming down pit road. And it's kind of interesting because I was noticing the last 3 laps that he ran got faster and faster. His last lap was actually his fastest lap of the race, 1:44.127. So it kind of says to me that he knew he was coming up on that pit stop and he was going to try and get everything he could out of that race car in that final couple of laps of that run.
Yeah, so just a quick note, everyone in the top 5 just pit besides the 99 of Wagner. So this has to be when the fuel window's open if guys are coming in this early, get it done, and then just take the tires, take the fuel, and go to the end of the race. Just, run it that way. But interesting, for all the 99 stayed out the lap, and he loops it. He lost it through turn 1 and 2.
Yes, he did. Matt Wagner, that is going to cost him greatly in terms of track time, as 6 of the top 7, now 7 of the top 8 came down pit road this lap.
I think he was saving fuel to try and make it this one more lap. It sounds like he has the clutch pushed in. There's nothing on. There's no sound from the motor. And then when he lets off the clutch, the car just spins around due to the RPM change.
Looks like another driver is going to stay out this lap as well. Nicholas Winook in the 33, as just about everybody else is on pit road. Nick DeGroot, we saw hit pit road. Jim Herrick has hit pit road. Brandon Pasaliqua, also Jason Butler. Looks like the driver that's going to benefit from this was the guy who pitted the lap before, Charles Teed. He's making his way around a couple of these guys that just pitted this time. So maybe that extra lap is going to benefit Teed in terms of improving his position. He was 7th before he came to pit road. We'll see if that's where he cycles around to, or if he's going to gain or lose a couple of spots when we finally cycle around this green flag run.
Well, the advantage that Teed gets from pitting the lap before is this lap, his tires are up to temperature while everyone else is still trying to get them to temperature. So he can kind of push a little bit harder, keep some spots. As you can see, he is closing in on the 101 car. Although, is he a lap down?
No, that's for position.
No, he's not. That is for position. So yeah, he is closing down on the 101, and you can just see just tires are up to temperature while the 101 just is not yet.
At Wagner on pit road. Yeah, that 101 of Jason Butler, he still has to pit, as well as the 33 of Nicholas Winook, and Gale Brooks will have to pit in a couple laps time also. Everybody else has been down pit road here in the last 2 laps, as there was the lead change as Wagner was on pit road. Maleska III going to take the top position back, and he's going to have a car up ahead of him to deal with. I believe that is... I think that's the 7 of Gary Corley who's actually going to go around here.
He just lapped Todd Snyder. The 7 is a little bit up the track, but the 7 will be the next car to get lapped.
Right. Okay, so Todd Schneider will get trapped a lap down. Josh Garner's trapped a lap down, and looks like AJ Hobson still sits on pit road trying to get repairs done to his 63, currently -9, holding down that 26th position, as now Nicholas Wonk's down pit road, or I'm sorry, Wooduk is coming down pit road, I should say. And now here comes the 101 of Jason Butler. So this should be the complete cycle of pit stops here. Now everybody's kind of got what they've got for the finish. And 11 seconds sit between Robert Maleska III and a possible brewing battle for second between Craig Forsyth and Alexander Van de Sant.
Yeah, Alex Van der Sant is really catching that 27 of Greg Forsyth. It's just a matter of time before he gets there. He was definitely quicker once the tires were up to temperature and worn out a little bit more. Now, the interesting thing to note, I think, would be Matt Wagner, how he had that clutch pushed in trying to make that extra lap on fuel. So do these cars only get about 10 or 11 laps on fuel, and we're actually looking at a 2-stop race?
That's quite possible. Yeah, that would make sense, because why else would he use the clutch to try and get that extra lap if indeed they are able to make it from here to the end? So that is a great point. So might see these guys back down on pit road at least one more time. If it is, though, it almost seems like unless the 91 makes a mistake or his team makes a mistake on that second round of pit stop, it's going to be difficult for even the fast car of Alexander Van de Sant to be able to reel him in, I would think.
Yeah, as long as that 91 of Robert does not make a mistake or no issues on pit road, he can really kind of back down a little bit here and not get into any trouble of getting close to the grass, missing braking points, anything like that. He's got a good little gap, and I'm sure he'll eventually use it. But at the same time, maybe not. Maybe you just never slow down. You just keep doing what you're doing and don't throw off your rhythm.
Well, folks, tonight we want to thank the sponsor of the race, LMC Gear, for the LMC Gear Road America 35. Lightweight motorcycle camping gear.com wants to be your one-stop shop for everything motorcycle, camping, and backpacking related. They specialize in high-quality gear that is extremely lightweight and compact, so it can be safely and easily carried on your motorcycle or in a backpack. Everything from the smallest portable camp stoves to lightweight sleeping bags and tents that will keep you comfortable in all climates. At lmcgear.com, they know that you can't afford gear failures when you're out on trails miles away from civilization, so they will sell only top-rated products that won't let you down while still maintaining a wide variety of products to fit the needs and budgets of all types of campers. Check out lmcgear.com and be sure to like them on Facebook as Robert Maleska III continues to show the way. He's led every lap except the one that Matt Wagner led when he stayed out the extra lap. And right now, the gap between him and Craig Forsyth remains about 11 and a half seconds. That battle for second place continues on. And just looking in terms of the push to passes remaining here with 20 laps to go, or closing down 20 laps to go, 8 left for Maleska III, 7 for Forsyth, 8 for Van de Sant. So they're pretty equal in terms of the push to passes they have left.
Yeah, that means none of them really been using them too much, just here and there for little moments. Um, yeah, I don't really think, I don't think they'll burn too many. Maybe the 27 and the 317 will start using some here as they're about to be in a battle for second. But realistically, Robert doesn't have to really worry about it unless there's a full course yellow, and then he can just burn his on the restarts and whatnot. So I don't expect him to use too many until closer to the end of the race, just keep a gap. But the battle for second, Seth, it's heating up. Alex is pretty much there.
He is there, and they both had to make their way around Todd Schneider, the first car lap down in 20th place, before they could resume that battle, which is only about 5 car length separation, closer than that, going through turn 7. And it looks like maybe, just maybe, that battle will culminate on the next lap. On the flip side of drivers that have not saved their push to passes, 5 have been used by Krista Nelson, 6 have been used by Charles Teed, and I can't believe this. I mean, we are about almost a third of the way through right now, and 9 of the push to passes that were given of the 10 have been used by George and Zaldo. So, you talked about how detrimental that is if you have a late race restart. What about here for a 20 lap run to the finish? I mean, do you pay the price not having any push to passes with the field spread out?
No, not too much. You just kind of the field's spread out. You can just kind of run your own pace, run your own laps. The guy behind or the guy ahead using a push to pass isn't going to make up enough time where it's going to matter over one lap, kind of thing. So realistically, if you're just running them out, then it's whatever. But I almost question why you're using them if you're running by yourself as well. So that's an interesting strategy for the 6 car. But yeah, if there's a late race yellow, I don't expect him to stay in the position he's floating around just because everyone's going to be able to get a power boost basically on the straightaway, and it's not even going to be fair at that point.
And George Anzaldo had a great start to the year, finishing up in the top 10 in the first 2 races of the season, but he did miss out on Atlanta last week, which dropped him 10 spots down to 12th, now 36 points out of the points lead. How about the 15 of Covey Moore, though? Because last week was kind of the turnaround of the season for him. He jumped up 12 spots and stays up to 19th, and another solid outing. He's currently up inside of the top 5, holding down the 4th position.
Yeah, he started 7th. He's running 4th, so just 3 places gained this race so far. And that's after the Matt Wagner spin that he had on staying out that extra lap. So even then, he was still running top 5. So not a bad race so far for that 15. And he's not as quick as the top 3, but he seems to be lapping a little bit quicker than Matt Wagner. So he seems pretty good for 4th spot right now.
Gary Corley, who was a lap down, he just came down pit lane to complete what I believe was a scheduled stop with the 7 machine. It's going to lose him a second lap, and it looks like the 71 of Gale Brooks has actually gone to the garage area. So the 71 right now scheduled to finish in 25th, unless the 63 of AJ Hobson can get out there and complete 9 more laps to pick up that 25th position. As there you see the 7 machine coming off of pit road. This 12 of Josh Garner also on pit lane. He's multiple laps down after early issues on lap 1.
Yeah,
That battle for second place, it's kind of opened up now, Bronson. It was close, like about, 3-4 car lengths, and now there's over a second separation again.
Yeah, their lap time was around the same, but the way they've hit lap traffic has definitely been interesting for Alex, at least. Craig has gotten them nice and early on the straightaway, been able to get around them in the 27, and Alex just hasn't had that luck. He's had to get them in the braking zone or midway through a corner, kind of take a different line, and you just lose a couple tenths, and it just adds up here and there. Their lap times are pretty close. I think the thing you might have to look out for if you're the 317 here is following behind a car heats up your tires and your brakes a little bit more, and you just don't have that optimal grip that you've been so used to or that you really want.
Well, if the projection is correct, we're going to be seeing these drivers coming back down pit road somewhere within the next 7 to 8 laps for what potentially will be their final pit stop of the day, if indeed they do have to make that second pit stop. I do know that back at, I believe it was Atlanta and at Iowa, they ran with, I think it was an 80% fuel tank, and so I'm assuming something similar to that here at Road America, forcing these drivers to have to make pit stops here under green flag conditions, certainly shuffling up the running order. And drivers that gained off of those green flag pit stops would include the 317 of Alex Van de Sant, moving himself up to 3rd place. Also, the 1 of Nick DeGroot picked up a couple of spots from 9th up to 7th, but a couple of drivers that really lost spots. Matt Wagner, after his spin, staying out that extra lap, he drops from 2nd down to 5th. Another driver that lost quite a number of positions would have been the 21 of Brandon Pasalic. He actually was up in 11th and dropped down to 14th place. So pit road definitely having its ups and downs for some of these drivers.
Yeah, pit road can be tricky, especially with an open wheel car. They have so much grip, but only at high speeds. You get slow, you get on the gas, they're easy to spin her out. They're hard to slow down sometimes. So it's just, guys might be better getting on and off pit road. I'm just looking at numbers of when they all pit. Pretty much all the leaders came in after 11 laps. This is a 35-lap race. These guys are going to be super close on making it on one more stop. And that's if they come in at around lap 23 or 24. So if these guys come in at 22, they need to go 13 laps when they've only been getting about 11 on fuel.
Is it possible to be able to save 2 laps of fuel here at this road course?
Is this a fixed setup league?
I believe so, yes.
Then I'm not sure if they can change the fuel mapping settings on a fixed setup. If they can, you can run in a slower fuel map, and basically it saves fuel, but you have less power on the straightaways. A guy like Robert in the lead by 12.5 seconds, if he has that option, it's worth doing. You can cut out an entire pit stop, and pit stops are 40-50 seconds of time lost most of the time, especially with this one. This one has a long pit road, so it's probably about 30 seconds plus that you'll lose. But if you can't change it, then I guess it's really just hit when you can make it to the end and go from there, or run it dry and put the minimal amount of fuel in.
This battle for second place now making its way around Krista Nelson. And I'll tell you what, Robert Maleska III not only going to work on laying down lap times, he's also picking them up and putting them down in terms of putting drivers off the lead lap. He passed Krista Nelson a couple of laps ago. He just went around last week's winner, Pablo Francis, and Jason Butler. So right now, 16 drivers currently on the lead lap, and he's got a couple more just up ahead of him that he might lap momentarily. George Anzaldo and Victor Santos, the 6 of Anzaldo, was just on pit road, so he's got fresh tires. And you can see right here, there's really no contest coming down Kettle Bottoms. That 91 is on it in terms of the speed he's able to carry.
Yeah, you were saying the six just pitted. His tires are cold, so he doesn't have much grip in them for about this first lap or so. And you can just see how much quicker the 91 was through the kink and all the way down that straightaway until Canada corner. It's just he was able to keep the car more throttled up, just had the grip and was able to get past him easy. And then he has Victor Santos just ahead of him. So yeah, he's putting on a clinic. He's just lapping guys, and he's still pulling away from the other guys in the top three.
And some of these guys have been coming off some really good momentum. Victor Santos, who's just about to go a lap down if the 91 reels him in, he's third in the points coming into this race. And of course, as we just saw moments ago, Pablo Francis, last week's winner, getting put a lap down as well. So a lot of drivers struggling. We have officially now got 3 drivers in the garage area. We mentioned Gail Brooks already. AJ Hobson did indeed get his car pushed back behind the wall. He'll finish 26th, Brooks in 25th, and Josh Gardner, who had his issue back on lap 1, he is officially out in 24th. So we have 23 drivers running still on the racetrack, and with Victor Santos going a lap down now, only 14 of them currently on the same lap as leader Robert Maleska III. Battle for second, heating up again here as we're past the halfway point. We've got a second round of pit stops that's going to be coming up momentarily. We'll cover those in just a moment. We're going to go to a commercial break here. You won't miss a thing. We'll keep it here on this second place battle as we go FRN side by side. We welcome
Yes.
you back here to Flat Out Racing Network's coverage. Race number 4 of Season 3 of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series is the LMC Gear Road America 35. 13 laps to go, and you're starting to see drivers make possibly their final pit stop of the day. Charles Teed and Benjamin Combs, they were just on pit road, and no sooner did they come off of pit lane, they were about to be lapped by race leader Robert Maleska III.
Yeah, they're getting lapped right now, but I do believe this 91 should be pitting this time. He's on his 12th lap, and if he comes by and pits this time, he'll have 12 laps to go, so he'd pretty much work out the fuel perfectly. Some of these guys that pit this last lap or two, though, they're going to be really close on making it if they can.
Eric Peterson pitted 2 laps ago. George Anzaldo pitted 4 laps ago. So I'm not certain they can make it on fuel. If indeed about 12, maybe 13, if we're being kind, they can make it on fuel. I don't know if they'll be able to make it to the checkered or not before coming down pit road, maybe topping off just a little bit to make it that extra lap or 2. But we'll see here, because when the green flag pit stops began last time, it was Charles Teed and Benjamin Combs that started it, and then Maleska III came down pit road the following lap. And as you stated, we didn't see him do it this time, and so we'll see if he has to come to pit road this time around, if he stretches this out maybe that extra lap, and it looks like he is coming in.
Yeah, okay, so he got 12 laps on fuel this time. Actually, I guess that makes sense. They got 11 laps on fuel the first stint with a full pace lap. So they probably maybe could have went 12. Maybe that's why the 99 was trying so hard to get that extra lap. He was just that close to it. Because he did make it. He didn't run out. He just did spin out with the clutching. So yeah, 12 laps on fuel. So this should be the final stop for the race leaders, at least. But those guys that came in 2-3 laps ago, I don't think are going to make it.
And Desant, Forsyth, Covey Moore all coming in this time. And I was wondering about that 99 of Matt Wagner, since he had stayed out an extra lap on the first round of pit stops, if he was going to stay out this time. But no, he comes down pit road. Also on pit road just moments ago was the 76 of Jim Brooks, but he was on the tail end of the lead lap. That's why we saw him coming down ahead of the race leader.
Yeah, the 72's in, the 1's in. The 57 is just coming through the last corner. I'm sure he'll probably be in this or next lap. He's coming in as well. So yeah, pretty much everyone's pitting here this lap to make it to the end.
I think someone had an issue there off the final corner, Bronson. Might have been the 21 of Branton Passalacqua, because I saw smoke lingering there in that vicinity, and it looks like he's actually out of the race now.
The 20, I was actually going to mention that. The 21 left a little bit ago, so I'm not sure who that was, but he was just ahead of the 57 in that last corner. Yeah, I saw him in the grass, kind of. That would have been the 7 car of Gary Corley. He was off in the grass in the last corner.
Corley has been able to continue on multiple laps down in that 7 machine as things cycle back around. Maleska III still the race leader, but what was about a 13-second gap has now been closed down to 10 between himself and Van Desant. 12 laps to go, 10-second separation. Is there enough time for Van Desant to reel in the 91, especially based off the lap times comparisons we've seen on these first 2 runs?
He would need to be running about a second a lap quicker, and I just haven't seen that difference. It's been maybe a couple tenths a lap, not a second a lap. Most of the time gain, I think you can just see how much better of an in-lap the 317 had. He was about 2 seconds quicker on the in-lap to pit box to kind of deal. So I think he just got a lot more aggressive on that lap. Maybe didn't have lap traffic and did it. And outlap wise, he was only a tenth and a half faster than the 91. So he needs to start clicking off basically a second a lap to catch the 91. And I just don't see that happening with how even they've been in pace all race long.
Still waiting for a couple of drivers to come down pit road for their final stops of the day. Nicholas Winook right now in 10th, Jason Butler in 13th. They're on the 11th lap of their stint. They still have to hit pit lane. The only driver right now that kind of shuffled up the running order of the top 10 based on pitting earlier was George Anzaldo, but He pitted 6 laps ago, so based on the projections, we know he'd be anywhere from 2 to 3 laps short on fuel.
I would even go as far as saying I think he's about 4 laps short. He came in on the end of lap 17, so he's already been out there for 7, coming to the 8th lap of this run. So he pretty much would have to pit within the next 3 or 4 laps to be able to make it to the end of the race. He won't have to do a full tank of fuel, but he's gonna drop through that order pretty quickly, as he's only got a couple seconds to Jim Henrik in the 57, and that's about 3-4 spots that he can lose pretty easily.
Well, Robert Maleska III is the lone Twisted Trojan motorsport car out there. Does not have his teammates Dylan Moskowitz nor Jeff Hysong out there with him. So the lone entry for the team here today, and he has been putting on a clinic. After that second and what we're going to assume is final round of green flag pit stops, he has dominated this race, has all but 12 drivers pinned a lap down. And I think that actually might increase by the time we get to the end of this race, because of the 6 cars still having to come to pit road. He's only about 30 seconds away from being put a lap down in that 8th position. And I wouldn't even put it past this 91 to maybe reel in Eric Peterson, maybe even Jim Herrick, put them a lap down before the conclusion of this race, just based on the distance between them and the lap times this 91 car is consistently putting down.
Yeah, lap time wise, he should get the 36 of Peterson pretty easily. It's about a second and a half a lap quicker that the 91 is, and there's too many laps left. Eric Peterson should go a lap down, but there's not enough laps to catch the 57 of Jim Herrick or the 5 of Charles Teed, unless they really start racing each other, or they just fall off a cliff with tire wear. Basically, with lap times, they would have to be losing about 2 seconds a lap. So realistically, there's only one more lead lap car that the 91 looks like he's going to have to deal with here, and it's going to be that 36 of Peterson.
Well, no doubt about it, the first road course stop of the season, throwing a curveball into the point standings. Oscar Gonzalez not in the race tonight. He was 2nd in points. Victor Santos mired a lap down in 14th. He was 3rd in points. Dylan Moskowitz, as we mentioned, he's not in the race. He was 7th in the standings. And Gale Brooks back behind the wall, finishing 25th, 10th in the standings. So a couple of drivers here tonight that could find themselves up inside of the top 10 if they hold where they're currently at. Benjamin Combs, Nick DeGroot, Jim Herrick, because of the fact that the point standings are so close. Even Covey Moore, who is currently, I believe, a total of 24 points back from 10th in the standings, run up there inside of the top 5 in 4th place. Could be back-to-back good races to move the 15 up into the top 10 in points heading into next week.
Yeah, so real quick there, Seth. The 6 car has Pitt, and he did lose a lap to the 91, and he has 2nd and 3rd place coming up behind him shortly. So Eric Peterson is the last driver on the lead lap in 11th position right now. And he's even not that far ahead.
And even he might be a driver that can't make it on fuel, because he was on pit road 6 laps ago, about maybe 2 laps prior to when we saw Charles Teed come down pit lane in the 77 of Benjamin Combs. And we know
he wrecked! 36 wrecked. He's in the middle of the track. Oh, he just toes it to pit road right away. He gets out of the way.
Second incident tonight for Eric Peterson. He was able to kind of combat his earlier spin, but this one could spell big trouble, as this drops him at least down to 18th place. And of course, with calling a tow as well, Bronson, they have to be on pit road for the length of time it would take them from the point that they teleported to pit road under pacing speed.
Yeah, he's going to be towing for at least 2 minutes, maybe. Basically, to get back from that point. It wasn't too far, but it's such a long way to go, and probably about 1.5 to 2 minutes for him to be able to even get damage done. And I'm not sure if he even has a fast repair left, so that potentially is his race over.
This is interesting. 77 of Benjamin Combs coming back down pit road, spent about 8 seconds in his stall. Looks like he did change tires as well. I thought that he and Charles Teed, when they came down pit road, they were going to be okay to make it on fuel, but maybe that wasn't the case for the 77, and so now that kind of puts a question mark on the 5.
It looks like the 77 pit on lap 21 at the end of 21. So yeah, he was about 2 laps too early to make it on fuel. Maybe 1 lap, but he was for sure 2 laps too early to make it on fuel. The 5 car last pit at the end of 21 as well, actually. So unless he's fuel saving, he should also be about a lap or two short.
Eric Peterson.
57, he's fine on fuel. He pit on lap 23 with the leaders. I think everyone else pit on 23. Yes, everyone else pit on lap 23. So it's really, I think that 5 car will have to pit for fuel.
Eric Peterson still on pit road after him having to teleport. He currently has scored 20th, 2 laps down. It has really been a struggling start to the year for him. Currently finds himself 32nd in the point standings and still looking for his first top 10 of the season. It will not happen here today as you talked about cutting down the interval a second a lap. Well, we've got 8 laps to go. The gap is now 7.6 seconds between Maleska III and Van de Sant. So for the time being, the pace is on point to where Van de Sant would catch the 91. The only problem is it probably would be catching him in the final couple of corners.
Yeah, the way it's looking, it's Robert just did a 45.1. Alex did a 44.5. I think he needs to catch more than that, even by about 2/10 to be able to really get there with any chance. Because, like you said, if he does get there, I really think he'd be catching in about like Canada corner. Which, if you're not already alongside at that point, you're not really going to have a shot to make another move with just how quick these cars are through that little final section.
That was a close call there out of turn 2. Gary Corley had just come off of pit road and a race leader was coming up on him. Not sure which direction the 7 was going to go. He moved to driver's left to get out of the way. And fortunately, Maleska III was able to get around with no issue. Now going to make his way around another machine that almost comes to a halt for him. I think that was the 4 of Joe McAdory letting him by.
The 86 had the issue and let him by just before there. 86 is letting the 6 go by, the 7, the 317. He's completely destroyed the front end of that car. I think he's trying to drive it back to pit road, but he's got a long way to go, and he's right in the racing line now with cars coming up from behind.
Schneider now going through the carousel. And he looks like may be able to bring it back to pit road, but very slow and trying to get out of the way of these faster race cars. There goes Benjamin Combs on by. Still got a long ways to limp that 86 machine back to pit lane.
Oh, this hurts Alex. He just ran up onto the 7 through the last 2 corners of this track, and yeah, he just kind of slowed down. Alex had to avoid. That's going to pretty much kill any chance of running down Robert at this point.
Got a little off course there as well, coming off the final turn.
2 seconds.
Saw there Eric Peterson coming back down pit road in the 36 machine. And yeah, that could be right there. That one moment alone could be the all she wrote moment for Van de Sant's opportunity to be able to pick up the victory here today, or at least battle for the victory. He's 8th in the point standings as Van de Sant, so it'll be a good points day overall nonetheless, but just so close to maybe being able to make it be a last lap shootout between himself and Maleska III. Now all of a sudden, he has to make up almost 9 seconds with 6 laps to go.
Yeah, he lost about 2 seconds. I think that's all she wrote, barring the 91 having a mistake or having the same issue with the lapped car. But there's a battle for 4th that could happen if Covey Moore picks up a little bit of pace. The lap times are only about 2/10 separate, and it's under 2-second gap between them. So there is a chance there. And the 57 of Jim Herrick has caught onto the back wing of Charles Teed, but I do believe Teed has to pit again, so that battle's almost a moot point.
Yeah, and if he doesn't have to pit again, then he's definitely in fuel save mode, so he can't go nearly as aggressively as he would like to. Jim Herrick, on the other hand, 2 laps better on fuel, is able to go as hard as he wants to the end. So kind of the 5 car in a bit of a sitting duck situation.
Yeah, the 5 car at this point is just maybe trying to save fuel, make it in about 9th position, or he's going to end up having to pit, and he realistically would probably fall 11th, maybe even 12th, as Benjamin Combs and Nicholas Winook really aren't that far apart, so he could either come out right between them or just behind them. I mean, even Victor Santos isn't that far between. So Charles Teed has to be careful here. If he doesn't have the fuel to make it, he's just going to lose time trying to save it. And then if he has to pit anywhere, he's potentially going to lose 4 or 5 spots.
Tonight's the LMC Gear Road America 35, and LMCgear.com actually is a sponsor for one of the race teams here today. And four-car team, 3 of them doing really well here. Alex Van de Sant, one of their drivers in second, Craig Forsyth behind him in third place. Jim Herrick, who we just talked about, right now in ninth. Krista Nelson is a lap down, but currently holding down the 17th position and still out there on the racetrack. So pretty good run here for the team that has the sponsor of their team and the sponsor of today's race, but they're all chasing Robert Maleska III, and he is just picking up laps and putting them down. Going to be 4 laps to go when he comes back around this next time.
Yeah, he's running good. He's got quick lap times. It's really a shame if you look at what happened to the 317 of Alex Van der Sant at the beginning of the race. He was keeping about a 2 or 3 second gap right behind Maleska there the entire first stint into his mistake. So we really could have had a good race on our hands at the end here. And, they'd probably be racing each other right now, really, or, at least giving it a better shot than 8 seconds. But still, what a good drive for Alex to come back after that. He fell about 4th or 5th and was about 18 seconds behind, and he's within 8 seconds now. So definitely not a bad race. It's just, one of those what could have been situations almost.
Yeah, first and second on the racetrack now. We're actually first and second in the practice speeds. Maleska III actually sat at the top of the standings for most of the practice session. Van de Sant was able to top him with maybe about 10 minutes left in that practice session to have the fastest lap time during practice. And then, of course, it was Maleska III picking up his 4th straight pole position. And I mean, take nothing away here from Robert Maleska III getting that pole position, showing great pace all day. But you touched on the one word moments ago that I think kind of sums up this race for the 91, and that's mistakes. He's made none. That's what's allowed him, I think, most of all, to be able to have this gap between whoever is running in second place and dominate this thing from start to finish.
Yeah, the 91 has just ran a perfect race. He got away good on the start. He's caught lap traffic in good spots. He's, as the race leader, has been given the respect that, he's earned being out in front kind of thing. He's gotten past them on straightaways or, in a braking zone with the preferred line and whatnot. He's had good clean pit stops, and he's never really touched the grass or anything. The 317, he had the one issue earlier in the race, but he's come back from it. 27, he's had a pretty much perfect race. He's went off one time just before the carousel, giving up the second position to Alex Van der Sant. But besides that, he's had a near perfect race. Matt Wagner stayed out that extra lap. He just had that one spin. Besides that, he's been on track and good lap times the entire time. Covey Morris had a good race. So it really was just eliminating mistakes. And you can see what it's done for Robert as, 3 laps to go now. And he's his lead's starting to grow out a little bit, it looks like.
Oh, it's interesting. Coming into this race, 5 drivers had completed every lap of the first 3 events. After we leave here today, unless something happens, only 1 driver will have completed every lap in the first 4 races, and that is the 72 of Eric Schaus. A couple of other drivers that had up to this point completed every lap. You had, it was Victor Santos. He is a lap down, so he won't complete every lap here today. Gail Brooks and AJ Hobson, who are out of the race, they had also completed every lap in the first 3 races. So give credit there to Eric Schaus. So far, he is going to be the only driver in the first 4 events to have completed every single lap of the first 4 venues.
Yeah, that's not too bad. That's just showing that you're consistent. You're keeping the car out of trouble, keeping it on track when you need to, and, doing what you can in that very vibrant neon-colored car. But he's running good. He's running 6th. He's just keeping it on track, and he's in his own little zone right now. Not, doesn't really have to worry about being caught from behind too bad here. He's got about a 4-second gap on Nick DeGroot, so he should be fine for the end of the race. I'm looking at lap times, and Jim Herrick looks like he's going to get lapped by Robert on probably the last lap of the race.
And he's only running a half second behind Charles Teed, so it may be the 57
Oh,
and the
Teed's
5
in.
who could
Teed's
get
in.
lapped.
So
But
that
he
5
could
car
not make
is
it.
in pit road.
Saw the 101 of Jason Butler actually on pit road the lap before as well. He couldn't make it on fuel. This is
This is
with
going to be
3 laps to
interesting.
this is with 3 laps to go. And Maleska the third stayed out 2 laps after Charles Teed had come to pit road. There's 2 laps to go.
Yeah, he should be good on fuel. Just he came in at the end of 23. He got 12 laps. He ran lap 12 to 23. He did 12, and he's doing 12 laps this run, so he should be okay. The 2 laps that Teed came in earlier is clearly costing him here. The 6 has already passed him. The 77's passed him. The 33's going past him. I don't think Victor's going to get him, but he does have cold tires now for that 5, so that could be the difference here into turn 1.
Nick DeGroot.
Oh, sorry, Seth, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say, when Nick DeGroot won the championship last season, it's been a very quiet day for him here today. Right now running the 7th position. The defending champion last season went to victory lane a total of 5 times. Ironically enough, though, none of those wins were at a road course. And there's quite a number of road courses on the schedule this season. And with the slow start he's had, and not really seeing him at the front here today, I mean, it's almost looking like this is going to be a bit of a challenge for Nick DeGroot to be able to go back-to-back.
Yeah, definitely, you can definitely see as seasons go on, you get better and better drivers, and, you definitely like that as a driver. You like to see better guys come in and challenge you and whatnot. But it definitely might get frustrating at some point being last season's champion, and you're running outside the top 5. Really, nothing wrong with that. He's running fast. It's just Robert, like you were saying, he's gotten pole every race, so he's clearly a championship threat.
Less than 4 miles to go as Robert Maleska III just took the white flag one more time around this winding 14-corner road course. As so far this season, a driver has yet to go coast-to-coast pole to win because Maleska III has started on the pole for all of them. But he does have the machine up ahead to possibly put a lap down. I believe that is a driver that's already a lap down. That's Kristen Nelson in the 13. We'll see what he's going to do here on this final lap. He's got almost 16 seconds to work with, so I don't know if he'll back his pace down and let the 13 run ahead of him to the checkered flag, or if he's actually going to kind of give himself a bit of a challenge to see if he can put the 13 down a second lap.
I'm actually curious. It was only 8 seconds or so. I just went back and watched. Alex lost it on the uphill braking into turn 4 and just looped it around, and no damage or anything, just kept going. But that's where that gap came from. The 5 car that pit, Charles Teed, he went from 8th to 12th position, just being that little bit short. And Victor Santos isn't too far behind him, so if he makes a mistake or anything here, he could be losing another spot on this last lap. But Robert has lapped everyone up until the top 7. He's not going to catch DeGroot on this last lap. There's a decent gap from that. DeGroot's already down past into the backstretch. So Robert's going to cross the line and take a dominating P1.
Absolutely. Led every lap but one here today as he will get his first checkered flag of the season in the LMC Gear Road America 35. Dominating performance for this 91 car. I don't know if this is going to get him the points lead. He was 16 points behind Matt Wagner, and Wagner was able to finish in the 4th position, so it could be pretty doggone close between these two heading into the Lone Star State at Texas Motor Speedway next week. But finally, Robert Maleska III, after starting on the pole in 4 straight races, finally going to capture his first checkered flag of the year. And you got to wonder if maybe this is a guy that, despite his success at the speedways here in the first 3 races, was very happy to come to a road course.
Yeah, he's had the pace all season with the pole positions and whatnot, but a road course without draft and whatnot that he can take advantage of, he drove away and absolutely dominated for that win. 5th place, Kobe Moore just crossed the line, so that's locked up. And 6th and 7th, kind of a battle, but Nick de Groot's not quite close enough, so it's going to go Eric Schaus and de Groot for 6th and 7th.
That's the closest battle coming to the line, about 0.8 separation between those two, but Schaus will indeed get the 6th spot, de Groot in 7th. And that's all the drivers that finish on the lead lap behind Kobe Moore, Matt Wagner, Craig Forsyth, Van de Sant, and your race winner, Robert Maleska III. We'll take a look here at the full finishing results from this race. And as we expected, green flag from start to finish. And it kind of just really came down to, if you made mistakes early, could you come back from them? If you made mistakes late, it was more than likely going to cost you a decent finish.
Yeah, and quick note, Seth, these guys played fuel pretty much perfectly, as everyone has pretty much ran out of fuel coasting up the hill after turn 3 and 4.
Even the race leader and race winner, Robert Maleska III, doesn't look like he had enough fuel to be able to do some victory burnouts here.
Yeah, the 99 of Wagner seems to have the most fuel, and he's actually pushing the 27 around the track. But yeah, these guys played fuel pretty close, and the 12 laps, I guess that was the limit, so it was a 2-stop race. And yeah, strategy pretty much worked out perfectly for Robert there at the end, being able to come in at the end of 23 instead of some guys where they pit on 21 or 22 and whatnot.
Well, these drivers had to wait 3 speedway races before they came to a road course. They're going to have to wait another 3 speedway races before on February 24th, they'll be at the Circuit of the Americas. But let's see if we can get some post-race interviews here with our top 3 finishers. And let's kick things off with a driver that finished off last year with a win in the Indianapolis 500 and finishes 3rd place here today at Road America. That's Craig Forsyth. Hey, Craig, it's Bronson and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
I got you, boys. How you doing tonight?
We're doing great, man. It looked like a grueling 35 laps out there for you guys. Finishing 3rd place here today, though. Never fell outside the top 5 all day, but what little more do you think you needed to be able to get up there and be in the same zip code with the 91 and the 317? Like we're having a little bit of an issue here. Craig,
was that my end?
Yeah, we got you. We got you, Craig. Go ahead.
I was just saying I would have needed about a second a lap. Alex and Robert were far and away faster than I was, and it was because of the strategy. I mean, our guys had worked on figuring out that what our best fuel strategy was going to be, which was 11, 12, 12. But for me to run the 12 laps, I am a lead foot, so to dial it down and make sure that I made it. I mean, I ran out of fuel on turn 1 after the checkered flag, and Robert still coasted around for a whole nother lap. So those guys are fast and fuel efficient.
3 races in here, you came into this race 8th in the point standings. You've had a great run at the ovals. Were you one of the drivers that was looking forward to the first road course of the season, or maybe dreading it a little bit?
I like road. I mean, I'm decent at road courses. I like road courses. I just wasn't sure how good the rest of the field was going to be. So it was good to see that I was going to be happy with the top 5. I'll definitely take a podium. That's for sure.
Bronson, you got any questions?
I don't really know much about the league, so I'm just kind of figure out maybe what are you looking forward to for the next what was it, Seth? The next 3 races again back on speedways, really?
Yep.
So yeah, what are you looking forward for that?
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting for me. I'm actually having foot surgery in a couple weeks, so I'm going to have to start practicing with hand controls and make sure I can still put up a good showing. It's going to be an interesting month, that's for sure.
Well, Craig, congratulations on a 3rd place run here today through the twists and turns of Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin at Road America. We're going to give you the opportunity now for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
I got to thank Jim, Alex, Krista, all the guys over at lmcgear.com, lightweight motorcycle gear, lightweight motorcycle camping gear. Again, they worked through what our best fuel strategy was going to be for the race and how we were going to approach it, and it worked out for Alex and I. Got to thank Lionheart for this setup was excellent. This was a really good setup. I liked the balance of the car the whole way through the stint, and you guys over there at FRN. And Butt Kicker, of course, got those things thumping away beneath me, and thank them for sponsoring the league.
Well, that's Craig Forsyth, brings it on P3 here today at Road America. Congratulations there, Craig, and we look forward to talking to you next week when we go back to a T-shaped mile and a half at Texas Motor Speedway.
Hey, you bet you guys. Stay safe.
And let's see if we can now get our second place finisher, Alex Van de Sant. Hey, Alex, it's Bronson and Seth up here in the Florida Racing Network studios. You got us?
I gotcha.
Man, it was looking like maybe, just maybe, it was going to come down to a final lap shootout between you and the 99 of Robert Mileska III, but just not quite able to close up that gap. Was there something maybe in the first half of the race you could have done a little bit different that would have had you up there closer to him after that first round of green flag pit stops?
Yeah, not spinning. Yeah, I had a moment in turn, I guess it's turn 6, and got lucky, didn't hit anything, but just lost a bunch of time. And then did it again at the end.
Saw you and the 91 even kind of started the whole rivalry of who was going to win this race back in practice. The both of you up there at the top of the board in terms of speeds, and then you finish 1-2 in this race. Do you kind of see this as maybe a running rivalry into the upcoming road courses as well? You guys got Circuit of the Americas, Watkins Glen coming up in the next 2 months.
Yeah, potentially. Robert was, super fast, super consistent, just so smooth. So I gotta, really work on that, getting my consistency up, and then maybe I can, give him a run for his money later on.
See if Bronson's got any questions for you here, real quick.
Sorry, I'm going through looking at standings and stuff, see what I can figure out too much. But really, yeah, you had a really good run tonight, Alex. And like you were saying, you just had the spin, you just lost some time. But realistically, you guys, you and Robert had beyond amount of pace compared to everyone else in the field. But are you more of a road course guy, or are you looking to maybe win one of these ovals coming up or whatnot?
I know I can win one of the ovals. I like to think I'm strong all around. That my issue on road courses is consistency, and I've just had a lot of bad luck in general in this first part of the year. So hopefully, I think that's starting to turn around now. So, maybe I'll be up there next week.
Yeah, I definitely caught a couple times. You caught lap traffic in worse spots than other guys, or I think you had the 2 self spins or whatnot. But besides that, you were super consistent all night. You were super quick, and obviously, take the momentum into the next couple weeks upcoming. And I think there's 3 races and then another road course, and go there with the same speed. And I'm sure, try and get a win one of them. And so a good night overall. And as Seth would ask, if there's anyone you want to shout out or whatnot.
Yeah, big thanks to lmcgear.com and sponsoring the team with Jim Herrick, as well as Happy Trails Chili Company. And big thanks to Craig. We worked together pretty well throughout the race. He let me save a bit of fuel behind him. I did the same. And yeah.
That's Alex Van de Sant. He's going to finish P2 here today. His best finish of the season so far in the first 4 races. Congratulations there, Alex. And we look forward to talking to you again next week at Texas Motor Speedway, maybe in Victory Lane.
Hopefully. Thanks, guys.
And let's now go down to Victory Lane, where we're going to talk for first-time winner this season. It's the number 91 of Robert Mileska III. Hey, Robert, it's Bronson and Seth up here in the FRN studios. You got me?
I got you, boys.
Man, the only word I can think of in today's event with what you were able to do is dominant. You led every lap but one. You qualified on the pole position. We've seen you do that now 4 races in a row, but you finally close out the deal here today. Was it just kind of trying to remain consistent through the speedway races to finally get to this road course?
Before about 2 weeks ago, I didn't think I was that quick on road courses. But doing the 24 really helped my confidence, and just especially under braking, I felt very confident under braking. I thought I could go probably deeper than anyone. And yeah, that's about it.
The points obviously coming into this race, only 3
Mhm.
races in, very close. You were only 16 points back. This is certainly going to put you up there in the vicinity of the points lead heading into Texas next week. So now what is the mindset going into a couple more ovals before we eventually get to Circuit of the Americas? Where we're expecting to see the same road course speed.
First off, just keep getting poles. If I can start up, first 2 or 3 rows, that'd be great. Just because clean air is always key on these ovals, and just how the season has started, I do have a ton of confidence going in with running around some of these guys that I haven't ran around, like Alex and Craig and Matt. So I know how they race, and I'm more, accustomed to how they drive on these ovals.
One thing that we saw here in this race, Robert, it was a fuel strategy race. You
Mhm.
kind of had to pick when you were coming down pit
Yeah.
road. We ended up seeing that you were the only representative out there for Twisted Trojan Motorsports. So did you have a set strategy coming into this one, despite not having teammates to maybe bounce varying strategies off of?
No, so going into the race, I thought we could go 11, maybe 12 laps on a tank, and then Matt went 13, and I was blown away by that because I did not think he could do that. So I kind of did some quick math, and I knew if I just stretched it one more lap, these next 2 stops or the next stop, I'd be fine, or next 2 runs, and that's what I did, and I finished with about maybe a straightaway left of fuel.
Yeah, we Seth and I were watching the entire time when guys were pitting, when they were coming
Yeah.
in. I was trying to do math at the same time as like people coming in at the end of 22. I'm like, they're gonna be like
Right.
a lap short, I
Yeah.
think. And it's like the whole time it was, can people make it or not?
Mhm.
It's funny you mentioned with the ovals qualifying up front with the clean air being so important. I don't really do too much of the Indy cars, and I
Mhm.
know this is the older DW12. Is it more important for the clean air with the DW12 versus the IR18, or is it just kind of one of those things that it's always an important thing with the Indy cars?
I'd say the difference between the IR18 and the DW12 right now, in my opinion, is with this new tire model and damage model with the new car. It seems like you can't really pass much. So at that point, like you can still suck up really well, but you just can't pass. Um, but this car, clean air doesn't affect it as much, but you don't get enough of that draft. You can't really suck up well. If you're like a second and a half behind, you have to really drive right on the money to even catch them.
Okay, I actually totally forgot the DW12 was on the V6. That makes so much
Yeah.
sense of why people are still running it as much. But that's a whole nother iRacing issue across the board for
Mhm.
oval cars right now. That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense though, because last time I drove the Indy car was the DW12, so I was just like, I clean air used to always be important, but I have no idea how much of what it was now.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, that makes a lot more sense. I was just curious, from a driver perspective, what
Yeah.
you had
Oh,
going
good.
on with that. But Seth, if you got any last things to add.
Yeah, well, the point stands have actually come in, and Robert, you are taking the points lead by 9
Cool.
points going into Texas Motor Speedway. So congratulations on that as well. And we're now going to give you the opportunity and hand the microphone over to you for some thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Even though my teammates were not in the race, I know I had their support on the stream, so thanks Dylan and Jeff for helping me out. Shout out to my friend Bobby that was also watching, and yeah, let's see if we can get 5 in a row polls next week, and maybe go two in a row with wins.
Well, he'll try to do that in the Lone Star State. That's your winner tonight from Road America, Robert Maleska III. 4 poles and 1 victory here, and now your new points leader going into Texas Motor Speedway. Congratulations, Robert. Go and enjoy that win.
Yep, thanks, boys.
And that's going to bring this 4th race of the 3rd season of the Dark Horse IndyCar Series to a close. And again, as we said when the checkered flag was taken, Bronson, what we expected, usually at a road course to get spread out, you normally don't have a full course yellow. So it's basically from start to finish all about not making mistakes. And that's exactly what Maleska was able to do today.
Yeah, he was just able to get the pole, get away from through turn 1, and really just put on a clinic from there. Had Alex not had the 2 spins and lap traffic issues, I think we could have definitely had a race on our hands between them two, as their lap times all race long were pretty much identical. But he didn't have any mistakes for the 91, and he's just able to drive away, get a win, and take the points lead and go into the next oval where, like he was saying, hopefully keep getting poles.
comes the fourth different winner in the first 4 races of the season, taking the checkers here tonight in the LMC Gear Road America 35. Special thanks to Lightweight Motorcycle campinggear.com for their sponsorship of tonight's event. And Robert Maleska III will have to see if this consistency is able to keep up heading into next week at Texas Motor Speedway. We're back to oval racing before we end up getting to the Circuit of the Americas. 3 more ovals, Texas Motor Speedway, as well as Phoenix and Twin Ring Motegi are going to be the next venues for these drivers during the month of February. It's been a great one here tonight. Bronson, appreciate you joining me up in the booth for this one.
That's always fun, Seth.
Thanks to everyone that tuned in tonight. Hope you enjoyed our coverage. Tune in next Wednesday night. Green flag to fly at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the 5th race of the season here for the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. Once more for Bronson Stafford, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flat Out Racing Network.